Hey guys, how you doing? So today we're going to do some movement. Come on and join me. I'm going to start by laying on the ground. We'll go from there. Okay, so laying on your back, turn your attention in towards your breathing. Place your hands on your abdomen and see if you can emphasize diaphragmatic breathing. This is where you feel movement in the abdomen while you breathe. You can add some gentle abdominal massage, which is a really good way to not just check in with what's happening in your internal organs or your intestines, but also to make sure that you're not stuck anywhere. There's several layers of connective tissue and muscles in the abdominal compartment, and we really want to make sure that, especially if you've had a history of surgeries or injuries in the abdominal area, you want to make sure there's nothing stuck there. From here, we're going to reach our arms above our head and elongate through the spine. We'll reach one hand across the body, but see if while you reach you can keep your feet in contact with the ground. Slowly return back to your backside and then switch hands. Reaching in different directions, but across the body and alternating hands. You really want to make sure that you're feeling through the whole body, exploring the sensations. So very mindfully and with a lot of presence and focus, just enjoying the sensations and feeling the support of the ground underneath you. Let go of any unnecessary tension, and you can even see if you can match your breathing with your movement as well. From here we'll move into our rock-ups. So you're rounding your back, tucking your chin to your chest, and slowly with control rolling back, and as you pop back up, you're alternating between reaching above your head, forward, to the sides, and also back. The choice is yours. You want to see if you can create length through the spine as you're in this bent knee sit position. So just really focus on quality of movement in addition to quantity. You'll notice that I'm adding just a little bit of a wiggle of my fingers, and that just adds some additional stimulation to the mechanoreceptors and the nerves and the tissues, which is all very healthy and good for you. So from here we'll move into our side bend sit position and do our kick out switches. So you're just lifting the back leg up, bringing it to the front, and then switching by lifting the other leg up and then bringing that leg back. So if those words sound confusing, just look at what's happening in the video, and if you need to, you can pause the video and slow it down or slow it down. And then there's always a lot of different variations we can use here. So here you can see that I used my hands to hinge forward at the hips, and this is really good for getting a nice gentle stretch. But you'll notice that I'm not just passively laying there, it's very active. Awesome. So from here we'll go back to our rolls. This time we're going to lead with the legs. So you're reaching the leg across the body again, trying to keep those arms connected with the ground. You're initiating movement from the center and reaching through the leg. So it's a progressive reach. Take your time, explore the sensations, let go of tension in the body, and remember, anytime you can integrate breath work into your movement, it's a good thing, because your breathing is a critical part of mastering quality movement. here I start to allow the arm to come off the ground, and there's no strict rules. You don't have to stay inside a box. So from here I move back into my rock ups, but you'll notice that instead of just rocking up into a bent knee sit position, now I'm rocking up into a figure 4 position. So one ankle comes closer to my rear or my glutes, and the other leg comes forward, and I press myself up into a half kneeling position. Again, thinking about length through the spine. I also like to emphasize movement of the hips. You know, when we sit a lot, especially now that a lot of us are spending a little bit more time at home, it's really important to turn those glutes on as often as we can, because typically when we're seated, those glutes are turned off. So when you rock up into this half kneeling position, you really want to emphasize length through the spine and hinging at the hip. Okay, so moving back to our side bend sit kick out switches. So again, just really using some imagination with this one. Here I'm going a little bit higher with my foot, and this is great for activating the glute muscles, especially the gluteus medius and minimus on the side of the hip, and adding a little bit more speed to and a little bit more intensity. So here you can reach forward with your arms and allow those back muscles to get a little work in. Quality motion, taking your time, but also not going too slow so that it's not, stimulating or interesting for you. You want to work at a speed that works for you. Okay, back into our rolling. So this time I'm going to take the roll a little bit further and roll all the way onto my stomach. So you'll see the foot comes up into the air. I roll all the way onto my stomach, contracting through the glutes, finding the ground with my foot first, and then allowing the rest of my body to roll. And then in the very end of this set, you'll notice I'm using a full body log roll, if you want to call it that, and then crunching everything together. This takes me right back into my rocking. And what I'm going to do from here is some prone extension reaches. So I'm extending actively through the spine. What you can't really see here too well is my glute muscles contract first before I extend my chest off the ground. I really want to emphasize contraction of the glutes and getting those larger muscles involved in my movement. From there I'm reaching in different directions, reaching behind, reaching above, and reaching in any different direction that I like. If I add a little bit of speed to the movement, I can get just another variable to add to the benefit of my movement practice. From here I'm going to move into some spinal articulations, so I'll do a little bit of cat and cow, a little bit of child's pose mixed in with cobra pose. So you'll just notice that as I arch through the mid-back, I can shift my body weight forward and back. I can add some neck mobilizations by looking towards my feet. Make sure that you're breathing. Make sure that you're coupling that breath work with the movement. Release any unnecessary tension and just let your spine feel like water. So here we're adding a little bit of cobra pose and extension through the hips. And from here we're going to do some tall kneeling step outs. Make sure that you're taking your time. And if this is really hard on the knees, you can always put a pillow or a rolled up towel underneath the knees just to provide some additional support. Here I'm adding a gentle reach with my step out. So as I step out with my foot, I'm reaching through the arm and then coming right back. So from here we're going to go back into our prone extension. You'll notice that in this position here, all I'm doing is retracting my scapula together on the back side. So those shoulder blade bones on the back, I'm drawing them down and towards my spine in the middle. From there, then I allow the arm to lift off the ground. So this is going to emphasize stability and mobility of your shoulder blades or of your shoulders. These muscles in the back side of the shoulder often get overstretched or weak as a result of sitting at a computer all day long, arms, stretched to the front. So we want to remedy that. And back into our spinal articulations. So the variation I'm adding here is, instead of staying in the quadruped position on my hands and knees, I just lift the knees off the ground. So I'm shifting my body weight back and then coming up. Okay, from here back into my tall kneeling step outs. Really getting a little bit more dynamic with the reach aspect. Whenever you practice movement, I think it's, for me personally, I really like to emphasize functionality within my movement practice. I want to make sure my body can do stuff. Looking nice or having your body look a certain way is always a plus. And at the same time, it really just boils down to, what can your body do? If you look great but you can't do anything, then what's the point? So just really making sure that your body can do all the things that you want to be able to do. Perhaps you want to play on the ground with your kids or your grandkids or your brother or sister or whoever. Perhaps you want to do some gardening, get out into the yard. So all these things require mobility. Okay, so back onto the ground, prone shoulder retraction. This time, instead of having my elbows straight, I bent my elbows, and again, it's just adding another variation to my scapular retraction exercises. In this position here, what's difficult to see, but I want to make sure you're emphasizing, is come out of the movement, laying your forehead on the ground, and contract the glutes first. Once you contract the glutes, then you can move into extension and start to reach up. And that just helps to anchor and stabilize the spine while you do these dynamic reaches. This should give you a nice sensation of stretch while you're moving through the motion. Okay, and then one last set of our spinal articulations. This time I'm adding a little bit of a variation from kneeling, or from low kneeling. Just sending a wave of movement through the whole spine. As I move forward, I'm hinging at the hips. So again, my hips are the emphasis because the hips are huge movement generators. They have some of the largest range of motion of all the joints in the body. So you really want to make sure that you're using and utilizing that movement potential while you practice your movement. Add some additional reaches here. And then again, moving into my step outs. You can add a little bit to this if you'd like. You can add a little bit of, by curling your toes under on the backside and pressing yourself up, you can start to initiate a stand or standing up, which again is really important because God forbid we ever end up on the ground. If we didn't want to, we want to be able to get up. Or maybe we were kneeling on the ground and we're doing stuff on the ground and some emergency manifests or something requires our attention to get up quickly. So you want to practice that. You want to practice getting up and being ready. A lot of times when we sit all day long, the geometry of our vascular system is such that when we're consistently compressing those tubes, but we're not moving and compressing our tubes, the vascular system starts to change a little bit, and that would be a symptom of that would be when you go from a low position to a high position and you start to get lightheaded. So you want to avoid that by practicing your movement from low to high. From here, we're moving into our tall kneeling reaches. So you should be feeling a nice gentle stretch through the quadriceps and the front side. You're reaching in different directions. If you lead with the thumb when you're reaching back, it really helps to accentuate the contraction of the lower trapezius. So from here I'm adding just another variety of movement. Again, just using a little creativity in my movement. And you could do the same thing. There's no rules except for don't hurt yourself. There's no medals for stretching further than your body can stretch or moving in a way that your body isn't prepared or doesn't want to. Okay, so from our tall kneeling rotational reaches, we're going to move into a hip hinge. So from a standing position, you're creating length by pressing through the top of your head and elongating the spine. From there, you're going to initiate movement through the hips. So as you're bending forward, a lot of times we get into the habit of using our spine to bend forward. And it's not wrong. It's just that the muscles in the glutes are the largest muscles in the body, and we want to use those muscles and make it a habit of using those muscles, especially if we're going to be carrying a heavy load. So this movement is really functional and really safe all at the same time because we're not carrying much of a load other than our body weight. From here we'll move into our balance. So you'll start by flexing the hip in front and the knee, and then you take it out to the side, back to the front, and then to the back. You can use your arms as a counterbalance if you like. Again, only take your leg as high as what's comfortable for you. If you need to hang on to something like a chair, perhaps a wall, that's totally fine as well. The idea is to spread the toes wide and make sure that you're trying to emphasize the balance from the foot. Allow the foot to figure it out, not just the upper body. Switch legs. This is really good and important, especially if we're going to be stepping over an obstacle. Okay, so I'm back into our tall kneeling reaches. Adding variety, adding variations, reaching alternately. Think long through the spine. Extend and reach through the spine, through the hips and legs, and then the arm and hand. From here, we're going to take a short break just to breathe, check in, place one hand on your abdomen, one hand on your chest, and just assess your whole body. The body's 60 to 70% water, so it's really helpful if we spend time throughout our day just tuning in with that fluid dynamic and make sure everything's flowing, make sure everything's soft and mobile. Okay, back into our hip hinge, so standing back up. Here you can see I'm placing my hands on my hips just so that I make sure that I'm initiating that movement from the hips. From here, as I hinge forward, I'm just going to shift my hips from side to side, and this is really fantastic for the ball and socket hip joint. So I'm kind of greasing and gliding that joint. We have this fluid called synovial fluid inside our synovial joints, and when we mobilize our joints, that fluid is distributed throughout the joint and helps to lubricate the joint. So I'll do a combination of standing tall, hinging forward, adding that gentle reach, and then right back into my balance. From here you can see that I'm mimicking how it would look if I was to be stepping over an object or an obstacle. I'm also using variations, so at first I brought my leg forward and over, now I'm bringing my leg back and over. Always a million different variations of movement, always so much variety or possibilities to explore. Make sure you're breathing. Make sure that you're integrating that breath work into your movement. So let's move back into our rotational reaches, really emphasizing the initiation or the start of the movement from the core or from the center. So think about kind of contracting the abdominal muscles and then rotating through the spine and then reaching back, then reaching up. As you reach, you can practice reaching above, low, and everything in between. Back into our hip hinge. Here we have a wide stance, hinging forward at the waist, adding some lateral lunges. Rotate your pelvis to face the side, and from that front lunge position, your spine is long and neutral, and you're using that powerful glute muscle on the left. So you'll see my left leg is the one that's forward. So in this movement, I'm pressing through the heel and contracting that left glute. Switch sides, same exact thing. Reaching my hands above my head just adds additional effort or additional challenge. And the emphasis of this, again, with the hip hinge, is to get those glutes to contract, to get those glutes to wake up, and to recognize or to remember their role, which is pretty critical, especially with regard to movement. We'll move into our last balance set. Again, just adding some nice variations here, touching the foot in front and back, then moving the arm and leg in opposite directions, side and then front and back. Again, make sure that you're spreading your toes wide, broad base of support, adding little intricate details, having fun with the movement and exploring. Using my movements that I'm demonstrating and I'm articulating as a kind of a template or some framework to start from, but by adding your own little intricate variations. Okay guys, so from here let's just go ahead and move down onto the floor with control, laying on your back, and start to turn your attention back inside. Release any unnecessary tension, going back to those abdominal massage movements. This is really good, especially because in the abdominal area is where we create all of our, or 95% of our serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone. So if you want to feel good through your chemistry, massage your stomach. From here, I'm reaching my arms above my head, trying to keep my ribs down in front, breathing diaphragmatically, and then leading with the stomach as I roll onto my side and curl into a fetal position. This will contract all the abdominal muscles, internal, external, oblique, rectus abdominis, quadratus lumborum. Everything that's in the core will be activated. All the muscles on the underside of your pelvis contracting as well. And then as long as you're breathing through the process, you're getting that full range of stimulation and activity of the core. Here I'm just adding a little variation by bringing my elbow and knee together and reaching in opposite directions. And then just go ahead and allow the feet to flop open to the side, relax on your back, close your eyes, and just turn your attention in towards your breathing. Observe your breath as you let go of any unnecessary tension. Just let it sink into the floor below you. If you feel any discomfort anywhere in your body, see if you can relax that part of your body and witness your body as it heals itself. Here I'm adding some gentle massage for the underside and front side of the shoulder. This is where an abundance of lymph nodes exist. Lymph nodes are cleansing stations of our body, and it's just so important to make sure that everything is flowing, everything is open. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. If you like this video, please press the like button and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing some more time with you later.